and there's no heaven.
You think you know how they died? You don't. The real stories were buried, hidden from the headlines, kept quiet by the people closest to them. These weren't just rock stars, they were legends, giants, the voices of a generation. And the way they left this world, nobody warned you about that part. What you're about to hear is the truth, the dark side of rock and roll that the industry never wanted you to know. Stay with us, because number 1 will change everything you thought you knew. Number 10, Richard Manuel, the band.
He's in the valley, down downtown, had the rumble in the hand.
And Richard Manuel, the man they called the heart and soul of the band. Close your eyes for a second. Picture a cold Florida night in 1986. A small venue, a show that just wrapped up. The crowd went home happy, but backstage something was very wrong. Richard was not okay. He had not been okay for a long time, and nobody really knew how bad it had gotten. Richard Manuel was one of the founding members of the band, one of the most respected groups in all of rock history. These were the guys who backed Bob Dylan. They played on the Basement Tapes. Their album, Music from Big Pink, came out in 1968, and it changed the way rock music sounded. Richard had one of those voices, raw, aching, like it was already carrying too much pain. He could break your heart with a single note, and behind the scenes he was doing exactly that, breaking his own heart, but slowly, with drugs and alcohol that had become his constant companions for years. The sad truth is that the band always lived a little in Bob Dylan's shadow. When the spotlight finally came their way, personal demons had already taken over. Richard struggled publicly with addiction for years. The music world moved on. By the mid-'80s, the rock press wasn't paying much attention, and then came that night in Winter Park, Florida. After a show, alone in his motel room, Richard Manuel took his own life. He was 42 years old. A voice like that, gone at 42, that is the kind of loss that doesn't ever really make sense. Number 9 is one of the most heartbreaking accidents in rock history, and it should never have happened. Stay right there. Number 9, Randy Rhoads, Ozzy Osbourne's lead guitarist. You have to understand who Randy Rhoads was. He was 25 years old. 25. And he was already being called one of the greatest guitar players who ever lived. He was the guy who put the fire back under Ozzy Osbourne when nobody thought Ozzy had anything left. And then, on one random morning in March of 1982, a bus driver made the worst decision in rock history. Facts and context, Randy Rhoads played on Ozzy Osbourne's first 2 solo albums, Blizzard of Oz in 1980 and Diary of a Madman in 1981. Both records are considered heavy metal masterpieces. His guitar work was unlike anything the world had heard. He mixed classical music training with hard rock fury, and it created something completely new. The band was in the middle of a U.S. tour when they stopped overnight near Orlando, Florida. And the tour bus was parked at a property that had a small private airstrip. Fun fact. Randy was taking classical guitar lessons while on tour. He wanted to go back to school. He wanted to get a music degree. This was a guy who played sold-out arenas at night and studied music theory in the morning. He was hungry to grow as an artist in ways that went far beyond rock and roll. He had a whole future planned out. Or the tour bus driver, Andrew Aycock, decided to take Ozzy's private plane for a joyride at 3 in the morning. Nobody asked Randy. Nobody told him it was dangerous. Aycock buzzed the tour bus low to the ground, clipping it with the wing. The plane spun out of control and crashed into a nearby mansion. Randy Rhoads, a passenger, never had a chance. He was 25 years old. The investigation revealed Aycock had cocaine in his system, a completely senseless, avoidable death. Rock and roll lost a generational talent that morning because of someone else's reckless choice. Number 8 got sober, got clean, and was flying higher than ever. And then a helicopter took it all away in an instant. Number 8, Stevie Ray Vaughan, guitar legend. The blues guitar master who had just beaten his demons, only to lose everything else. Picture the summer of 1990. Stevie Ray Vaughan is clean and sober for the first time in years. He is playing some of the best guitar of his life. People who saw him that summer say he looked different, lighter, happier, like the weight had finally lifted. August 26, 1990, Alpine Valley Music Theater, Wisconsin. He just finished an incredible show, sharing the stage with his friend Eric Clapton. It was supposed to be a celebration. Stevie Ray Vaughan was from Austin, Texas. He put Texas blues on the world map. His debut album, Texas Flood, came out in 1983, and it hit rock fans like a lightning bolt. His tone, his technique, his feel, there was nobody else like him. B.B. King said Stevie could get something going and ideas just kept flowing. David Bowie heard Stevie play and immediately hired him for the Let's Dance album sessions. He had the rare ability to connect with other guitar legends as an equal. Stevie almost didn't get on that helicopter. There were not enough seats, and he traded his spot with a member of Clapton's crew. At the last second, a seat opened up and Stevie climbed aboard. It was one of those tiny moments where the whole world changed in a single breath. The helicopter took off just after midnight in thick, foggy conditions. It flew directly into a ski slope. Everyone on board was killed instantly, the pilot Stevie and 3 members of Clapton's management team. Stevie Ray Vaughan was 35 years old. He had just gotten his life back. He had just made it to the other side, and rock and roll lost one of its very best on the clearest night of a comeback. Should have lasted another 40 years. Number 7 kept a secret from the whole world for years. By the time we found out, it was almost too late, and then it was. Number 7, Freddie Mercury, Queen.
Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Out of the doorway, the bullets rip.
Think about Live Aid in 1985. Think about that moment when Freddie walked onto that stage at Wembley Stadium in front of 100,000 people and made every single one of them his. He could control a crowd the way most people breathe, naturally, effortlessly. But behind the sequined jackets and the stadium anthems, Freddie Mercury was quietly fighting a battle that the world knew nothing about. Facts and context. Freddie Mercury was the lead singer of Queen, one of the biggest rock bands ever assembled. Songs like Bohemian Rhapsody, We Will Rock You, and Don't Stop Me Now are woven into the fabric of rock history. What people forget is that Queen never stopped working. Even as Freddie's health declined through the late 80s, he was still in the studio, still recording, still pushing himself and his bandmates to create. The album Innuendo, released in 1991. It was recorded while he was gravely ill. The music shows none of it. It is stunning. For years, as Freddie's body was being destroyed by AIDS, he kept it completely private. The press speculated. His friends knew, but Freddie refused to let the illness become the story. He confirmed his diagnosis to the world on November 23, 1991. He died the very next day at 45 years old from bronchial pneumonia brought on by AIDS. One day, he told the world, and then he was gone. There is something both devastating and deeply dignified about the way Freddie Mercury left this world. On his own terms, saying goodbye only when he was ready. Number 6 is the story of a man who burned brighter than anyone and went out on a London street corner alone before anyone even realized he was in danger. Number 6, Bon Scott, AC/DC.
Going down for the time.
February 1980, London. AC/DC are on the rise. Highway to Hell has just put them on the global map. They are this force of nature, raw, loud, dirty, unstoppable. And Bon Scott, their singer, is the living, breathing center of all of it. One night of heavy drinking later, he is found unresponsive in the back of a friend's car in the cold London morning. He never woke up. He was 33 years old. Bon Scott joined ACDC in 1974 and transformed the band from a promising hard rock outfit into something genuinely dangerous and exciting. His lyrics were funny, sharp, self-aware, and always just a little bit over the line. Highway to Hell, released in 1979, was their breakthrough. It was everything rock and roll is supposed to be, as a full-throttle, no apology party anthem. The album went platinum. They were about to cross over into the mainstream in a massive way, and then February 19th, 1980 happened. Bon Scott had actually survived a near-fatal motorcycle accident in 1974 before he even joined AC/DC. He fractured his collarbone, lost some teeth, and was technically clinically dead for a short period. Came back from that. He was physically tough in a way that made people think nothing could take him down. That is part of what made his death so shocking. Nobody saw it coming. What is almost unbearable about Bon Scott's death is what came next. AC/DC did not break up. They hired Brian Johnson and released Back in Black, one of the best-selling rock albums of all time, as a tribute to Bon. It meant that musically the world moved forward quickly. Bon Scott, the person, sometimes gets overshadowed by Back in Black, the monument. But listen to Highway to Hell. Listen to Whole Lotta Rosie, that voice, that energy. Nobody replaced it. They just kept going without it. Number 5 kept recording right up until the end. And nobody in the music world even knew what was coming until it was already over. Number 5, Jim Morrison, The Doors. Jim Morrison, the poet, the provocateur, the man who turned a rock stage into a courtroom for the human soul, Paris. July 1971, Jim Morrison had moved to the City of Lights to escape the fame, the arrests, the pressure, the noise of being a rock god when all you really wanted to be was a poet. He had been writing, walking the streets, living quietly. And then on the morning of July 3rd, his girlfriend Pamela Corson found him in the bathtub of their apartment, stone cold. The party was over. He was 27 years old. Here is where the real mystery lives. And listen, because this is important. Earlier in this video, I hinted at a story that goes deeper than most people know. Jim Morrison's death has never been fully explained. No autopsy was performed. There was no official investigation. The cause of death was listed as heart failure. But people who were close to Jim, close friends, musicians, insiders, have said for decades that it was more likely an accidental heroin overdose. In interviews, it has been said that Jim was given heroin by someone at a nightclub that evening, possibly thinking it was cocaine. Some people say he never knowingly used heroin at all. There are different versions of the story, and most of the people who were there that night stayed silent for decades out of guilt, grief, or fear. And the fact that there was no autopsy, unusual even by the standards of 1971, meant the full truth was sealed the moment Pamela Courson signed the death certificate. French law allowed it. Nobody pushed back. The rock world lost its dark poet and got no real answers. The mystery made Morrison bigger, not smaller. The Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, where he is buried, became one of the most visited graves in all of Europe. His legacy grew into something mythological. Yeah, but there are people who believe that if someone had asked harder questions that morning in Paris, we might understand what really happened. Jim Morrison's death isn't just a rock tragedy, it's an unsolved story. And that is why this one is not just music, it's history. Number 4 is the founding father, the one who showed every guitarist alive what was possible. And the night he died, the world did not even realize what it had just lost. Number 4, Jimi Hendrix, rock pioneer.
People hear me, people hear me.
September 1970, London. Jimi Hendrix is 27 years old, and by any measure, he has already done more in 4 years than most artists do in 40. But he is also exhausted, burnt out, caught in the machinery of a music industry that never stopped demanding more. On the night of September 17th, he took some sleeping pills at a friend's flat in Notting Hill. He went to sleep. He did not wake up.
On my telephone.
Jimi Hendrix played guitar left-handed on a right-handed guitar strung upside down. That means everything you hear, all of that tone, that feel, that magic, came from a setup that was technically backwards. He built his own technique from scratch. No teacher showed him how to do what he did. He invented it. The medical examiner found that Jimi had taken 9 sleeping tablets, German-made Vesparax pills that were nearly twice as strong as the equivalent British medication. Whether it was accidental or intentional has never been fully resolved. What the coroner's report confirmed was that he aspirated on his own vomit during the night. A completely avoidable death. At 27 years old, rock and roll has never stopped asking what Jimi Hendrix might have become if he had made it to 40. Number 3 was a generation's mirror. When we lost him, the whole decade cracked. Stay with me. Number 3, Kurt Cobain, Nirvana.
For me, he wouldn't do it.
Spring of 1994, Seattle. Kurt Cobain has just escaped from a rehab facility in Los Angeles. He flew home alone. For several days, nobody knows exactly where he is or what he is doing. Then on April 8th, an electrician arrives at Kurt's Lake Washington home to do some work. He finds Kurt in the greenhouse above the garage. He has been there for 3 days. Kurt was 27 years old.
Lead Belly's guitar for $500,000.
Kurt Cobain was a gifted visual artist. He painted, he made collages, and he designed some of Nirvana's most iconic imagery himself. In the weeks before he died, friends say he seemed to be genuinely trying to find a way forward. He had just bought a new shotgun, which was what authorities found at the scene, but he had also been calling friends, reaching out. There are people who knew him who still wonder if a different outcome was possible.
Last night.
Kurt Cobain left a note, and it referenced a Neil Young lyric, and it's better to burn out than to fade away, and it explained his feelings about his inability to enjoy the music and the fans the way he once had. He was 27. He had a daughter who was barely a year and a half old.
Where did you sleep last night?
The grunge movement essentially died with him, and rock music has been searching for that kind of raw, unfiltered honesty ever since. Number 2 is the death that stopped the world on a Monday night, interrupted a football broadcast, and changed everything. Number 2, Buddy Holly, rock and roll, pioneer.
What did we ever do to the sky?
Buddy Holly, the 22-year-old who invented the blueprint for everything that came after February 3rd, 1959, the Winter Dance Party Tour, a brutal Midwest winter, tour buses breaking down, musicians freezing. After a show in Clear Lake, Iowa, Buddy Holly decides he has had enough of the bus. He charters a small 4-seater plane to get ahead of the tour. Richie Valens and the Big Bopper take the other 2 seats. The plane takes off just after midnight into a dark Iowa sky. It crashes into a cornfield less than 5 miles from the airport. Nobody survives. Buddy Holly from Lubbock, Texas, was one of the first artists to write his own songs, play his own instruments, and produce his own recordings. He pioneered the 2-guitar, bass, drums lineup that became the standard setup for every rock band that followed.
Don't you ever fear, I'm always there. I know that you.
The Beatles took his name as an inspiration. Holly's band was called the Crickets, which is partly why the Beatles became the Beatles. His songs, That'll Be the Day, Peggy Sue, Rave On, are still played and covered constantly. He had been recording for less than 3 years. 3 years, and he changed everything.
What's the matter, what's the matter, what's the matter? What's the matter, babe? I'm feeling blue.
The tragedy of Buddy Holly is what was never made. He was 22. He was already evolving as an artist, experimenting with orchestral arrangements and new recording techniques. The musicians who came after him, and the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, all studied him.
I don't care about that.
They all said so, but because he died so young, the general public sometimes forgets just how foundational he really was. Don McLean called it the day the music died in his song American Pie. That is not just a lyric, that is an accurate statement. And now we are at number 1. This is the one that stopped the world cold. The death that still doesn't feel real even now, over 40 years later.
Hey, Rocklore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow, you're becoming a member of the Rocklore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
Number 1, John Lennon, the
Imagine all the people.
Beatles, December 8th, 1980. New York City, the Dakota Building on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. John Lennon and Yoko Ono are returning home from a late-night recording session. It is just before 11 at night. As John walks toward the entrance of the building, a young man calls his name. John turns around. Mark David Chapman shoots him 4 times in the back at point-blank range.
Nothing to kill.
John Lennon is pronounced dead at Roosevelt Hospital. Less than 30 minutes later, he is 40 years old. Earlier that same day, John Lennon had signed an autograph for Mark David Chapman outside the Dakota. A photographer was there and captured the moment. Chapman shook John's hand. John smiled, and then he went to the recording studio and came home to be killed by the same man a few hours later.
You may say I'm a dreamer.
Chapman was still at the scene when police arrived. He had stayed there, sitting on the curb, reading The Catcher in the Rye, waiting to be arrested. He did not run. John Lennon's death is not forgotten. It can never be forgotten. What gets lost sometimes is the complete senselessness of it. There was no political motive. There was no robbery.
Sharing all the world.
Chapman said he wanted to be famous. He wanted the world to pay attention to him. And so he murdered a man who had spent his entire adult life asking the world to pay attention to each other instead. Where the news of John Lennon's death interrupted a Monday Night Football broadcast on ABC, Howard Cosell told the country, and for a moment, one long, shocked, grieving moment, the whole world stopped.
A brotherhood and sisterhood of man.
John had been singing Give Peace a Chance since 1969. He had been begging the powerful people of the world to put down their weapons. And then a man with a gun took him away. That is not just a rock tragedy. That is one of the defining sorrows of the 20th century. And there it is, number one. The death that still hurts. The story that still does not make sense.